The BYD Atto 3 is already one of Australia's most popular electric vehicles. But as we run out of early adopters, car makers need to find ways to maintain their appeal. Introducing the 2024 updated Atto 3, which gets a few more goodies and is cheaper. Is that enough to not only maintain its appeal but expand it? Let's find out. Pricing for EVs is a moving target at the moment, with car makers adjusting to try and meet demand as it ebbs and flows. Earlier this year, the Atto 3 extended range that we're testing here started at $50,011 before on-road costs. Then in April, BYD announced a drive-away deal for $45,990 for pre-registered demos, which is a big discount. Now for this updated model, the price is $47,499, which is a jump up from the sale price, but is more than $3,500 cheaper than the Atto 3 was at the start of 2024. Clear as mud? Well, the bottom line is a brand new Atto 3 from the showroom is cheaper now than it was before, and that is a win for buyers. If you want more details on the specification and the pricing, make sure you read my in-depth written review at carsguide.com.au. Let's talk about design. And well, there's not much to talk about. The biggest change from a visual point of view is this, the new color, Cosmos Black. Apart from that, BYD hasn't really done much to the Atto 3 compared to the previous years. And that's become something of a bit of a trend with EVs, particularly from newer brands like BYD and Tesla, who are preferring to focus their updates on the batteries, the technology, the software, those sorts of things, rather than a new grille or a new alloy wheel design every year. But speaking of tech, there's some new stuff inside, so let's take a look at that. In here, one of the biggest hardware changes is this new 15.8-inch rotating infotainment touchscreen, which replaces the previous model's 12.8-inch version. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't know why it rotates, but that's a cool party trick if you're into that kind of thing. A couple of updates include wireless Apple CarPlay, it's got wireless Android Auto, and it also now has a karaoke function, but don't click off the video, I won't test that out. As for the design, well, kudos to BYD for not following Tesla's cost-saving disguised as minimalist design aesthetic path. Personally though, the colors, the trims, the design, the like guitar string door pockets, which look a little bit 1970s. It's not to my personal taste, but again, at least they've tried something. And overall, the space, the practicality, the usability is all very good. Moving into the second row, for an SUV this size, space is actually pretty good. I'm sitting behind my own seating position, driving position. I've got, adequate room. The seats themselves are a little flat. You have got adjustable headrests, but the base is quite flat. But there's probably decent width, and because you've got a flat floor being an electric vehicle, you don't have a transmission tunnel, you probably squeeze in 3 in the back, at a pinch, when you need to. And the people in the back seat are pretty well catered for. You've actually got a USB-A and a USB-C charging outlet. You've got multiple pockets in the backs of the seats, which is actually, a unique feature I've seen on BYDs, which is quite clever. And yeah, so overall, I think, the back seat accommodation, like I say, for an SUV of this size is pretty good. And finally, on the practicality front, let's take a look at the boot. And again, for an SUV this size, there's actually pretty respectable space, 440 litres on paper. And you have got a movable floor, but it does come, all this extra space in the movable floor comes at the expense of a spare tyre. There's no spare, you've just got a puncture repair kit, which is not ideal in Australian conditions, but I guess, you're probably not doing cross-country treks in your BYD Atto 3, but still, that is a trade-off that owners need to consider. Under the bonnet, both the standard and the extended range Atto 3 are powered by a single front-mounted electric motor that makes 150 kilowatts of power and 310 newton meters of torque. The standard Atto 3 has a rated driving range of 345 kilometers on the WLTP cycle from a 49.9 kilowatt-hour Blade lithium iron phosphate battery, while the extended range gets a bigger 60.48 kilowatt-hour unit that increases its range to 420 kilometers. Charging is capped at 70 kilowatts DC for the standard and 80 kilowatts DC for the extended. As for how it drives, well, the updated Atto 3 is fine. Like, it's fine. I mean, I don't mean that as a criticism. In fact, I probably mean it as a compliment for BYD. It's still a relatively new brand in Australia. There are a lot of new brands in Australia in the last few years, and frankly, not all of them have produced cars that are fine. In fact, a lot of them have produced cars that are frankly pretty underwhelming or downright bad. So, you know, this is good. This is a perfectly good car. It's, you know, is it the most comfortable mid-sized SUV? No. Is it the most powerful? No. Is it the most dynamic? No. But, you know, it does a good job. It gets you from point A to point B. It does so quietly and pretty smoothly. I would say the suspension is on the firmer side. It can feel busy at times. You know, it feels quite stiff overall. I guess, you know, again, there's a lot of weight to an electric vehicle, so, you know, controlling that weight is a challenge, but overall, I think they've done a pretty good job. One of the biggest changes from a dynamic point of view is the tyres. BYD has dropped the fantastically named, but actually pretty crappy Atlas Batman tyres for Continentals, you know, a much more, you know, established and, you know, better quality of tyre. You know, in the previous model, you know, could struggle for grip at times, particularly, you know, being front wheel drive, you're trying to put, you know, over 300 newton meters of torque. The Atlas Batmans were just, you know, not up to the job at times. And so it's good to see them making those changes, which are, I think, important to move it from, frankly, you know, in the future, you know, from fine to good. So, you know, at the moment, I think this is a perfectly, you know, fine and capable and competent, you know, mid-size SUV. But if you're looking for something spectacular, this is not it. But, you know, for just quiet, reliable, you know, comfortable enough transport, then the Atto 3 ticks those boxes. In terms of safety, both Atto 3 variants get a comprehensive list of both passive and active safety features, enough to score a 5-star ANCAP rating. Even though it has scored big points on the safety test, in the real world, it's not perfect. Certainly this is on the better side of modern cars, particularly modern Chinese cars. The Chinese brands tend to be a bit haphazard with how they have programmed their active safety features. They are particularly frustrating. Not just those brands, there's more established brands have certainly struggled as well. But I will say the Atto 3, overall pretty good, but there has been just the occasional incident where, you know, alarms are going off and I am trying to work out why. You know, it's worried about a potential accident with something, and I don't really understand why it's getting worried about it. You know, like you just drive along the street, it's detecting parked cars as potential hazards, and I think that is a problem, and it's, you know, you don't need cars beeping at you unnecessarily. That just causes, you know, momentary panic, and that can ultimately lead to accidents. So still a bit of work to do there, but overall, from a safety point of view, I think BYD has done a pretty good job. As for its ownership credentials, BYD offers a 6-year, 150,000 kilometre warranty for the vehicle, with an 8-year, 160,000 kilometre coverage for the batteries. Service intervals are every 12 months or 20,000 kilometres, and while a minor service is only $165, every second visit is more expensive, ranging from $498 to more than $600. There may be less oily bits under the bonnet, but there's still a cost to owning an electric car. So, what's the verdict? Has BYD made the Atto 3 more appealing? Have they expanded the appeal of this compact electric SUV? Well, certainly the short answer is yes, for those who are ready to make the switch to an EV. Adding more range, more technology, well, of course that can only help its appeal. For those who are on the fence though about an EV, those who are considering it, well, certainly amid rising inflation and rising new car costs, making it cheaper while also saving you money at the pump, well, that can only help its appeal. Now, as always, if you want to know more about the BYD Atto 3 or any new model, make sure you check out all our latest news, reviews and videos at carsguide.com.au.